Hey, what's going on? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and you're listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you replace harmful patterns with new possibilities. In each episode, we'll explore topics that inspire you to be yourself, live your truth, and make lasting connections. In this episode, we're going to talk about social confidence, specifically 5 key lessons that I've learned to create more social confidence within myself. And these are things that I wish that I had learned when I was a kid. I wish that I learned in my 20s, but I only really grasped the concept in my late 30s. And there's no shame here. We all do the best we can with what we have. And when we get the information we need, we get it right on time. So, are you ready to boost your social confidence? Let's go. So when I was a kid, if you've heard any of these episodes, I always talk about how awkward and weird and goofy and strange and if that's a word, that's how I would describe myself. It's just not a word. But I felt very uncomfortable around people, even though I wanted to connect with people. I felt like there was something that everyone else knew that I didn't know. It's like they intuitively knew it, and I felt like an idiot if I had to ask, or I felt like an idiot because I didn't know, and then I was made to feel shameful or even more stupid because I had to ask or I wanted to ask. So I just had to go bumble around and figure it out all by myself. And I think that's just the worst thing that we can do for ourselves and other humans. If we want to really be connected with others, we need to share that information. We need to share what works with us to people who are willing to listen, So that's what I have done here with this podcast and with everything I do is I look back at my past self and I just really want to help that kid. That person who was in their 20s and in their 30s, because I'm 41 now. Look at me, this big age of 41. But I'm like, hey, dude, there are some things that really would have helped you if you'd known them. And instead of being upset about not having the information or not knowing how to ask or shaming myself or blaming myself, you're so stupid. How come you didn't know that? Everybody else has figured it out. No, I don't want to do that to myself, and I don't want to do that to other people. So I reflected, and I've found 5 key lessons for social confidence, and that's what I really want to talk about, is these 5 key lessons that would have just rearranged or shaped or transformed my relationships even today. But I employ them today. I know what I'm doing these days, but back then, So for that person who doesn't know or can relate to the Lee of the past, are you feeling like that today? Here are 5 key lessons. So the first one that I really wish I had learned growing up, and I wish I've learned all 5 of these, but I really wish that I learned to just be realistic with my expectations, because I struggle with interpreting social cues. I held these unrealistic expectations to how quickly or deeply friendships would form, because I thought that everybody just is supposed to kind of get along. You smile, you give something to someone, you give like a gift, and they accept it graciously, and now they're your best friend, and now they're passing back treats. And I'm thinking about being like a 5 or 6 year old. You're passing back candies to each other. You're hanging out with each other as you get older. You're trading favors. You're doing things for each other. And I'm just like, that's what it was supposed to be. Those are social cues. Everybody's always happy. Nobody really has any bad feelings. I couldn't interpret those things much. And so I had the expectation that you were just going to be available for me. You're going to be just like what I saw on TV, and things are going to be fine. But that's just not the way it works. So today I know, and I think it's really important to put out here that, I know that people have feelings, and I have feelings. People have feelings, and it's okay to disappoint people. Like, people will have sad feelings. I will have sad feelings. I will be disappointed. And it's okay to be disappointed because they didn't do what I hoped they would, or they didn't get as close to me or be as a close a friend as I wanted them to be. They didn't show up for me the way I wanted them to show up. That doesn't mean I completely dismiss them out of my life, but I just know this is a thing that they cannot handle. Like perhaps they never want to help me move, but they will show up for me and they will bring me a housewarming gift after I've moved. Something like that. So I had these expectations that they were going to be on and do all the things for me, just like I would be on and do all the things for them. And that's just not a realistic expectation. So setting expectations, disappointing people when I don't show up for them because I'm tired, and allowing them to disappoint me and adjust my expectations has done wonders for any kind of relationship I've ever been in. The second one is don't assume friends will avoid you because of your quirks or flaws. So this is a bit of a self-deprecation kind of thing. I was internalizing rejection because I lacked that social confidence. I believe people looked at me with disapproval. And this is something that grew in me as I got older because I just kept seeing it over and over again. People would be disappointed, or people would dismiss me, or I missed a social cue, and I'm all self-conscious. I'm just thinking, people who genuinely come into my life and like something about me, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And as soon as they would cancel something, or as soon as they said they weren't able to show up, I thought, oh, they don't like me. That ruined my confidence. I just couldn't handle it. And I thought, it's all because of me and my big forehead. It's all because of me and my rude self, or I'm not saying the right things. I'm not listening to the right music. I'm not being the kind of person they want me to be. Otherwise, they would show up for me every single time. And I assumed the reason they didn't show up was because of my quirks and flaws. And that's just not right. A lot of people like the fact that I am goofy sometimes, or I make obscure references, or I like puzzles, board games, those little things. Some people would make fun of me for that, and those aren't the people that are in my life. That's just really simple. So I've learned that the people who are in my life don't make fun of me for those things, and they genuinely appreciate my quirks, and they appreciate my flaws. The third one is to accept no gracefully. Oh boy, no. Ugh. No is the first word I think the kids who speak the English language, they learn. No. Destiny's Child had a whole song about it. No, when it's really yeah. Okay, so that was confusing for me. And I think it's just weird. No means no, and I struggled with it. Do you really mean yes, or why? Was there something that I've done? I don't understand. And so accepting no gracefully, I struggled with it because it was just abrupt or unexplained. And then I also had this low self-esteem that I talked about, and I assumed friends didn't like me or people didn't like me, and it was no, and it's all my fault. It's internalized rejection. So today I know that it's not all about me. Darn. It's not all about me. People don't do things just because of me. They don't do things because they're thinking about me 24/7. They don't care that much. They have their own thoughts and feelings. They're internalizing their own rejection. They're not even thinking about me. So I've learned that when people say no, they have their own limits. They have the limits of what they can and cannot do. And it's not because they hate me, they dislike me, they don't want to be around me at all. It's just because they are saying yes to themselves. They're saying yes to themselves. And with that, I feel more empowered because I can also say yes to myself. I'll tell you a quick story about being rejected. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was out there trying to make real friends, and I went with this positive attitude, and I had a plan. I went to this meetup, And I thought, I'm going to meet one person, I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to say, we're going to be good friends. And I thought that I had to be vulnerable, deeply vulnerable with this person. So I thought that would reveal that I'm a transgendered person. I thought that would reveal that to them, and that would cement this connection. So I go out there, I talk to one person because that was my goal. I start having this conversation with them, and I lean the conversation towards LGBT stuff, and they're like, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. And then I lean it towards trans things, and they're like, yeah, I've never seen one before. And they said that to my face. And then I was like, okay, well, great. You know what? I think that they're a safe person. I'm going to reveal that I'm a transgendered person to them. And so I do it. I reveal it. I'm like, hey, I'm trans. And they left. Their face, it looked like all the color drained from their face, and then they stopped talking completely, and they left. Ouch, that hurt. That was a form of no. It was a form of rejection. They were just saying yes to themselves. And the reason why I tell you this story is because I survived that, and I'm okay. I'm okay. So when people say no, I can accept that. They're saying yes to themselves. I don't need to know why. I just know that it's not about me, and I don't need to do anything to it or chase it. So that was the third one. The fourth one is understanding personal space. So the social confidence in watching people do high fives and hug and secret handshakes and stuff like that, it blew my mind because I was just so adverse to touch. I didn't want people to touch me. I was afraid to be hugged. I was afraid to be high-fived. I didn't know how to do any of that. It felt kind of weird to me. It's in the watch people, and I was afraid of it. And, just being mindful of people's personal space, it helps people show that, there's safety there. So I didn't know how to tell people. I just kind of didn't want to touch people. And then with people trying to touch me, I was just like, this is make it weird. And so where it comes in this personal space is being able to communicate my thoughts and my feelings about it. If I don't want to be touched, or I don't never have to give a reason why, I just don't feel comfortable with it, I can say that. But these days, what I do is I ask people if they want to be hugged. Like, I'll put my hand out for a high five or a fist bump, because I think a lot of people will know what that means. But if they don't, then I will use my words to say, you want to do a fist bump, high five? Is that cool? Because respecting their personal space and realizing that they may have been who I was, 10, 20 years ago. Just was like, why do you want to touch me? I don't want to be touched. So recognizing that personal space and being able to communicate my limits. And I don't care if people were like, oh, that's weird. You are not my person, supposedly then. Like, I'm communicating with you clearly instead of intuitively. And I think that's really important to make sure that everybody understands. This communication, connection is for everybody to understand. And if I don't understand intuitively, then I know you can understand with your words. It may be a little awkward for you, but that's okay. It's awkward for me for the intuitive piece. So I want you to go in with that mindset, because it's worked wonders for me. And the last thing is, don't beg for friendship. Like, just don't. I struggle with people pleasing, validation, forcing connections. If I do this thing for you, you're going to do this thing for me. Trying to hook people in to hang out with me, or, to guilt people into things, or shame people into doing things. Oh man, I was thinking about how I would shame my partners, specifically romantic relationships. I would shame them into trying to do things for me. And it just doesn't work. It just makes people want to move away from you. I want to move away from that person I was 20 years ago, because I know that it doesn't feel good to be shamed. And that person who I was 20 years ago thought that was the best way to create a relationship, because they had such low self-esteem. But that's really not the way it works. We really want to start connecting with other people by allowing them to be themselves. So not begging, not trying to adjust them or adjust ourselves to fit. We have some communication and compromises, but we always do things that are out of joy and that feel good to us so that we can maintain that connection. Otherwise, we're going to build resentment that will eventually destroy the relationship. So that was number 5. Let me do a real quick recap for you. The first one is be realistic with your expectations. The second one is don't assume friends avoid you because of your quirks or flaws. The third one is to accept no gracefully. The fourth one is to understand personal space and be able to communicate that. And then the fifth one is don't beg for friendship. Don't beg for relationships. So this is a really short list of social concepts that really would have dramatically changed my relationships in the past. But, it's not too late to learn. As I said, I'm learning these now. I'm implementing them now. And my relationships have never, ever been better. Now I'd like to hear from you. So let me know which one of these lessons resonated with you the most as our question of the week. Which one of these lessons resonated with you the most? Do you feel like you've learned it, or are you still working on it? You're still working on these lessons and incorporating them in your life. Let me know. Leave a comment down at the bottom of this video if you're watching on YouTube, or you can write me at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Hey, Patterns of Possibility fam, I want to thank you so much for all of your positive feedback for the Supportive Connections course. The outpouring is just ridiculous. If you haven't heard about this, I dropped it a couple of months ago on my website, patternsofpossibility.com. Just click resources to get instant access to the free Supportive Connections course. You're going to learn exactly what you need to create healthy, supportive relationships. Because a lot of us, if you grew up in a household which you didn't see healthy connections, you were trying to figure it out all by yourself, you might not know what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship. This is for you if you find it difficult to communicate your own needs, or you feel like you always have unmet expectations in your relationships. If you struggle to recognize toxic behaviors, or you keep tolerating disrespect, manipulation, or control, this is for you. And it's free. Go to patternsofpossibility.com, click on resources, and get instant access to this free Supportive Connections course today. Now let's do the listener letters. If you have a question about your family, friends, business, coworkers, anything that goes on with your relationships, you can write me at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. All right, let's get into it. I live in a flat with several awesome people right now, and I'm great friends with. They're very friendly, funny, and open-minded, fun, just all around awesome to live with. We have never had serious conflict because we communicate and resolve things quickly. And just like all humans, my flatmates have some traits that I don't love, but I like them so much as people that it would be insane for me to end friendships over those traits. But when I notice their flaws, my perception of them gets worse, and I start secretly resenting them. And every interaction with them now feels like a chore. For example, one of my flatmates is broke, but not financially savvy. And he has a lot of monthly subscriptions, orders takeout nearly every day. And I don't like this about him, but he's otherwise a great person who has never done anything to offend me. And I know that even though he's broke, he can afford basic necessities for life. So it's not as if he's in crippling debt or anything like that. His financial behavior has never affected me or anyone else, by the way. He pays rent on time, he has a full-time job, and never takes or borrows money from others. But for some reason, his spending habits annoy me so much that it impacts how I see him as a person. This is the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this person. And I try not to let it show, but when we talk, I often sound annoyed or pissed off at him, even if he's friendly, even if it's a friendly chat. And I haven't said anything mean to him. This happens with most people I know as well. I mean, I like them, then I notice a flow of theirs and start disliking them, even though I know they've done nothing wrong. I usually don't end friendships or relationships over this because I know it's irrational, but the resentment never goes away. I thought it was because of sensory issues, because I feel overwhelmed or something, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Um, Most of the time, people I know just don't do anything unfriendly. I'm just who I am. They identify as autistic here too. So, and they say, I understand that this is not exclusive to my autism by any means, but if there's something related or if there's experience that you've had, please let me know. Okay, so I appreciate this because as I think about this, this is everything that's going on inside of your head is what past Lee, like 20 years ago, had thought was going on in everybody else's head about him. So if I make a mistake or I showed up flawed, people are thinking, oh, I just can't stand that Lee. I just can't stand the way his forehead looks. I can't stand the music. I didn't want to talk to him. I'm trying to be friendly, but underneath, I really, really hate him. Ugh. That's what was going on in my head. So I was making up all these thoughts, and it seems like you were sharing that, oh, this is real for you. This is how you really perceive people. And I understand, I understand. Because as much as I didn't like thinking that people were thinking that about me, I would do the same thing. I would think that about other people. And I filed this under a place to reject people before they reject me. I put it underneath there because I've done this when I felt like I had some kind of insecurity. And I was completely insecure because, as I mentioned, big forehead and stuff. So, and other things, I've just felt really insecure, and I wanted to find a reason to reject other people, even though their lifestyle didn't affect me. I could find some way to shame, blame, guilt, embarrass them, because that's really how I felt on the inside. Even if I did not say it to them, even if I was never intentionally going to say it, but if we got into a fight, or if they tried to reject me, I would have my ammunition already set. And because I already had my ammunition already set, I think in your case where it just kind of seeps out, where you're feeling frustrated or annoyed with them by talking to them because you're holding on to that resentment, because it's already there and it's hard to contain, So holding on to this resentment, so creating this resentment, it doesn't affect you how they live. And what I think about in my own terms of being, keeping it as ammunition, and maybe being a little bit envious or jealous or wanting them to be exactly the way I want them to be, or feeling a bit powerless and wanting to have control over somebody because I felt disconnected and dismissed by other people. I wanted those things for myself. I held on to that. I held on to this resentment. And so one of the things that I did to release resentment was definitely go to therapy. I'm not a therapist, so I do have great information about my own experiences, and if it resonates with you, then go ahead and pick it up. But I definitely would talk to somebody more about exploring why this is a thing that you do, because I did that too, discover it more. That's why I have these little answers. I was resentful of other people, and I wanted to find ammunition because eventually they're going to reject me in some way, shape, or form, and I wanted to be ready. Couldn't live and let live. They were doing something in their life that I could not do in my life, and I resented them for that. So discovering those things about yourself will help you release the resentment. Like, do you really want to hold on to this anger and frustration that you have? Do you really want this ammunition? Is going to eventually separate you, because it's going to grow, and eventually you're going to look at them some kind of way, even though you don't intend to, because you're going to be annoyed with them, and they're going to spot that. They're going to pick up on that, and they're going to be like, what is your problem? I've never done anything to you. And then they're going to want to move away from you. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, essentially. So you want to get that in check. It requires a bit of self-reflection, a lot of self-reflection. Have you been rejected a lot before? Have you felt really disconnected from other people? even expressing this here is great, but expressing it to somebody who can give you real life feedback and help you dig through that would be a lot better. A lot better. So the advice that I have for you, the insight is definitely to talk it out with someone to discover, is there something in you that desires to be like that person? Because I think we really want things that we can't have. And if we can't have the things that we want, there's this sometimes desire to say it shouldn't exist at all if we can't have it the way we want it. I hope that makes sense to you. Thanks for writing this. This is really dope. Amazing. I want to wish you the best of luck. And finally, I appreciate you being a listener. If you got something of value out of this podcast, please share it with other people and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening app. We'll see you next time. Take care.